minute. Here we are. Yes, we are live. The excitement of hockey's in the air, and yet the boredom of baseball continues.
So, stop.
You can't watch back-to-back things. Like even a baseball game that's in the playoffs.
I can multitask. I can watch baseball on one screen and hockey on the other.
Like, tell me you can watch like Calgary and Edmonton, like that's coming up. You know, it's going to be an amazing game, and the excitement that's going to be in there, and then go watch like a pitcher adjust his jock 4 or 5 times, spit into the ground, and then move across. And all the time that Connor McDavid took.
I'm not tuning in to watch him adjust his package. Although Gary Sanchez took one right off the songs yesterday.
Every game. Why are we into this discussion?
Happens every podcast. I mean,
here's what I say as far as that goes. I watched yesterday. I will not be watching baseball today. I will be watching that Calgary Edmonton game. That's going to be way better than the baseball game. I admit that. But yesterday's game was pretty good for Yankees Twins. I mean, yes, am I a Yankee hater? Sure. But the hate's lessened over the years, and it was a pretty good game. The only thing I felt bad about were the Twins were just like this team that when they fell behind, they just kept going deeper and deeper into a ditch. The fact that it's a bad ploy, and maybe Paul Molitor will fix this, but it's too late for this year. They're known as a fastball hitting team, but the Yankees stopped throwing them fastballs after they had the lead, and they couldn't adjust at all.
Right. Yeah. That's that's what happens with young players. They can hit the fastball. They can't hit the off-speed pitch. And, but no, I mean, as a Yankee fan, you see them go down 3-0 in the first inning and you're like, expletive. And then they come back and they get a couple guys on base in the first inning, and you just knew that Irvin Santana, who basically his success at Yankee Stadium is akin to the Leafs' success in Buffalo over the last 47 years. He gives up a 3-run home run to Didi Gregorius, and then it's on. And so I mean, we don't have to go into it. I just, as a Yankee fan,
that jet stream in Yankee Stadium is nuts. If I was playing in Yankee Stadium and it was a windy day, I would only throw sinker pitchers.
There were 4 home runs in the first 3 innings. It was nuts. So, but this was a year where they similar to the Leafs last year, where nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs. Nobody thought the Yankees were making the playoffs. Now they're in the Final Four. They'll probably lose to Cleveland, although they're playing with house money. I'll watch it, and if they lose, they lose. But I'm happy, and now we can get.
Now here on a quick side note, Fox has added Keith Hernandez to take Pete Rose's job on the panel.
Oh, great!
World Series, and I think it's a great move. Now, what's interesting about this, there's 2 things. The other day, Gary Cohen for the Mets at the last game of the year when they were losing 11-0. I promise I'll never mention that again. Did a lead-in that basically said, hey, big things are coming for Keith Hernandez. We'll tell you about it soon. So Met fans rushed to judgment and thought that he was
the next manager.
And, of course, Keith doesn't want to manage. But the funny thing is people in Cleveland don't like Keith Hernandez because when he signed there for like the last contract of his career, he had a calf injury. And a friend of mine has always pointed out to me that apparently there was a night, like a Jay Cutler moment. Remember when Jay Cutler was supposed to be injured and they saw him running somewhere? Well, apparently Keith Hernandez, when he kept getting those calf injuries, they saw him in a nightclub dancing. And so, like, Indians fans just got incensed that he stole money from them. So we'll be interesting to see if that comes up in the broadcast or not. Keith Hernandez really doesn't give a crap about anybody. So I think he's fun to watch.
Except Hernandez.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What am I saying? I thought this was defending to be. That's right.
We're passing it to you. We're good.
Let's move on.
Oh, echoes. I'm logging out for a second.
Manny Mota. Yeah.
Hold on. Moving my cat.
Is it the cat? that we finally figured it out. It's the cat that causes the echo. When the cat moves into certain spots, Russ is moving his cat. So we'll be back shortly. But we need Russ. Russ is moving his cat. We believe the cat could be the problem with the echo.
But no, the problem with the cat is she's deaf, and if she wakes up from a dead sleep, she will just meow at a very high level, and you can't shut it down.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we need Russ is moving the cat music then. For I'm trying to add music to the show in the future, like little interludes, things like that.
How about Cat Scratch Fever?
Russ.
No, I would take the theme for Benny Hill. Oh, hello.
almost fell, the computer almost fell over.
The theme for Benny Hill would be great for the cat movie music.
Yeah, there you go. Moving the cat. All right. Well, for those of you
Now you're fuzzy, just so you know it.
to talk about color commentators in Major League Baseball. Today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2017.
I am the clear Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen on Sportology.
And I'm Eklund, and this is welcome to the NHL season. The season is upon us. Today it all starts finally. I'm not fuzzy.
You are.
You are.
My lighting.
Yeah, there you go. That's
better. That's better.
Ah.
Everything's falling apart here on the HockeyBuzzcast.
We haven't slept much. The studio's in disarray. All right, no problem.
This is like Uncle Floyd today. This is like the Uncle Floyd.
No, it's not better.
He's like Mr. Carlson with from WKRP.
Yeah.
All right. I'll be right back then, guys. You guys can talk about Eichel while I'm gone, but that's it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Russ came out about 6:30 last night. Various reports regarding Jack Eichel. Now, okay, he signs 8 years, $80 million. I think the signing bonus was $15 million spread over the 8 years. Thing I don't understand here is, and I have always been somebody who thought that Jack Eichel is, I mean, he's not as good as McDavid, and nobody is, but I think he's a really good player, and I've always been a proponent of Jack Eichel being a top echelon guy. But based on the fact that he has scored, I think it was 56 points in his rookie year, 57 points in his second year, almost a point per game because he missed 20 games due to that high ankle sprain. Giving him $10 million off of 2 good years is bonkers, especially when the last couple months the Sabres have been negotiating with him and holding the line and trying to get him around $8.5 to $9.5 million in that range, and they just capitulated at the last moment and gave him the same amount as Kopitar and a little less than Kane and Taves and Carey Price.
Right. Now, here's the thing. I mean, again, some of those deals, almost all of those deals were all signed way before this.
Sure.
And so, like, this is always going to happen in every sport where a guy, you're going to, not you personally, but somebody's going to deem isn't worth it because he's making more than these guys, but it happens all the time. So I'm going to move past that part of the conversation to say, look, they're in a situation, and again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Players now know how much room you have on the cap, know what you mean to a franchise, and know what's coming. And so agents are very good at figuring out what is the maximum that they can make for players now under this cap world. You look at Jack Eichel, and he was heading towards this contract, whether it was happening this year or next year.
Sure.
And so even if it was going to happen next year, he wasn't going to get McDavid money, so he was going to get capped right around this point. It was either going to be this is the height or he was going to make less. And so I think, I just think that's the way it is. And I think
All right.
I think at the end of the day, the Sabres looked at it and said, all right, we're going to pay him now because we have deemed him our franchise player. I do think it puts a lot more pressure on Jack Eichel for the kind of player he is. And now I kind of wonder, short of 40 goals, will he be disappointing the fan base? To me, that's the big question.
Well, the funny thing is that, and this is said with any massive contract now, it's like boilerplate that after they sign this deal, they come out and say, well, we gave up a little less so that the team had more operating room. Are you kidding me? Because, I mean, the Sabres do not have a ton of room, and Eichel, I think, if they were going to stick with 9.5, I have a feeling that the ownership just said, you know what, splurge the extra $750,000 or $500,000 and get the deal done.
That's what happened.
And that's all fine and good, but the thing is that $10 million and saying that or seeing that and then saying, well, he gave up a little less to create room. Where? Because I think he hit a home run on this deal, and he has earned it.
The way you say that makes me wonder if my assumption here could be possibly true. I doubt it, but it could be. All right, my assumption is this: that that if you remember back to McDavid, Eichel, the whole draft and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the fact that Buffalo made a big deal of the fact that there were two players that were both great players in this draft, and they were both going to be superstars, and they were both going to be franchise players.
Right.
And is it possible that this is a continuation of that? Like this is saying, okay, he is McDavid, and he's just as good as McDavid, so we're paying him almost as much as McDavid, and now he's taking less off because he's not getting what McDavid's getting, who was getting more, but he's as good as McDavid.
Well, if you asked Tim Murray at the time of the lottery, that would have been the answer to that would have been no, because he was crestfallen that they didn't win the lottery.
Right, but they went out of their way to.
Yeah,
and
well, I mean,
and Eichel was definitely not your general second overall pick. I mean, he was a first overall pick in most years. Everybody agrees with that.
And this is this you'll never know what's true or not, but Austin Matthews missed the 2015 draft by like 3 or 4 days. His birthday was 3 or 4 days earlier. He would have been in that draft. And there's always been a debate. Well, would it have been Matthews or would it have been Eichel? Now, obviously, that's colored now by seeing what Matthews has done in the NHL. But at that point, it was a 50.
Well, I told you ahead of time the right answer. But anyhow, that's fine.
Right? No, but I was just about to say, people who talked about that before Matthews said that Matthews probably would have been the second pick. That's not saying that Eichel's not great. I think Eichel is a franchise player. I think he's a guy.
We've had since McDavid, and with the exception of McDavid and Matthews, over the last 10 years, Eichel probably would have been the first pick. I mean, besides those two drafts,
he would have been the first. I think he would have been the first pick over Ekblad. I think he would have been the first pick over Nathan McKinnon.
He definitely would have been the first pick over Hersher, or Hischier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably would have been the first pick over Nail Yakupov. So yeah.
I think that's a safe bet. So I think maybe over Taylor Hall. It's like I think that there's
Taylor Hall would have been a tough one because the speed factor for Taylor Hall would have weighed heavy, and he is a little more physical than Eichel. He's not better. We know now that he's not better, but if you were just taking him from you don't know, it would have been a lot
at the time. At the time, I mean, it feels as if that Eichel had more. From just an outsider's perspective, who doesn't really follow this as close as you do, it felt like Eichel was more than anybody else except for McDavid, and they happened to be in the same year. And the Buffalo Sabres were upset about not getting McDavid, but at the same time, they knew that if they did as bad as they possibly could, the worst thing they would get would be Eichel, and they were right. So that's how that played out, because that's how that worked still at that point.
But to Russ's point about the pressure being squarely on him, especially in Buffalo, when you're paying somebody like massive money, like Mario Williams, who was a defensive lineman for the Bills, who they made, I think, the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL at that point with a ridiculous contract, and he sort of crumbled under that pressure after a couple years.
I mean, you think the Sabres fans are going to put more pressure on him because of this contract?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If he's going into, let's say, the All-Star break and he only has 15 or 18 goals, there will be pressure on him.
Yeah, there's a level of expectation here. This franchise
is, but what is that? What is that level? Are they expecting him to be a 50 goal scorer now because of this contract, or are they thinking
close to it? Yeah, they're expecting at least line A numbers now out of him.
Well, okay, the one benefit to this is that the new contract kicks in next year. So if he scores 30 goals, 30, 35 goals, then I think people will say, okay, well, he's making upward progression, and it's worth it to roll the dice and pay him that kind of money. But if he steps back and then he's walking into a $10 million a year cap hit, I think there's going to be concern, and I think the fan base in Buffalo is desperate for this team to make the playoffs. And
if he got 30 goals, okay, and he hadn't signed his contract, and he's going into next year now, where we're going to be, and he's going up to be, an RFA, could possibly be offer sheet or whatever. You're going to get to this point where it's all going to be crazy.
Sure.
At that point, if they get 30 goals, what did they give him? Maybe 8.5.
No, he still would have gotten the same money. I still believe he was getting this money, whether it's this year or next year.
So then if that's the case, then the Sabres did the right thing, because.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's the right thing. What I'm saying is ownership was going to give it to him no matter what.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Then I think if that's the case, then I think to get rid of this distraction, to get it out of the situation, to get so the fans aren't talking about it all the time. I did write yesterday in my blog when I talked about Buffalo. I said you're kind of looking forward to him playing. This is before he signed. Him playing, for a contract. You knew he had a lot of motivation. I've
already started to get messages like, "Hey, Eichel's not worth it."
Right.
He's going to lead
the crazy thing.
playoffs.
That is insane. And I mean,
I know, but is he going to lead them to the playoffs? Is the next thing that every fan is saying now.
Yeah, if he scores 30 goals and they make the playoffs, then there'll be no heat on him. If he scores 30 goals and they're in 24th place,
it feels like to me that his disappointment will come from injuries and nothing else. Like I might be wrong. It's just a hunch, but I think he's going to perform. I think he's going to do what they want him to do. He's going to get close to 40 goals. I see, which I think is worth it. But I think the problem with him could be injuries. And it's just like, and that might be unfair because it's early in his career. But that seems like when you look at a player, is he worth it? Well, that player has only played 50 games this year. He's only played 60 games that year. I can see that conversation more than he's not worth it as a player.
Well, the interesting thing, and I'm going to write about this today or tomorrow, is that how does this affect down the line other contracts? I mean, always the comparables. I mean, especially with Austin Matthews, because Austin Matthews is entering year 2. Eichel signed after his second year. Now he had a better year last year and a lesser amount of games. But if Austin Matthews hits the 40 goal plateau 2 years in a row.
Yeah, Matthews will make more than McDavid.
And I don't know if he'll make more than McDavid. I think he'll make very, very close to it. He could make
2 reasons. I mean, one, I think they're great. They're very close in comparables. And as far as they're going to be statistically very, very similar. He's in Toronto versus being in Edmonton. There's more money in Toronto. There's more pressure to get it done in Toronto than there is in Edmonton. And I also think that it's 3 years down the line, so it's a little bit more of or 2 years down the line, it's a little bit more of inflation involved. So I just think at the end of the day.
Here's the comparison.
But
John Tavares' uncle for the Buffalo Bandits made the league maximum of $34,000. He couldn't have been. Nobody would ever say he was overpaid for the production he gave.
But his name is in the rafters there, Russ. Come on, that's worth something.
Right. So when he became one of the league's highest scorers, he's worth that $34,000. But now $34,000 to Jack Eichel is like a couple of games.
It's a couple of periods.
Couple periods, probably. Yeah.
Now there was one other contract, and then we got to get into the previews, or the predictions. The Nick Ehlers signs a contract with Winnipeg, 7 years, $6 million per. Again, I go down the comparable road because there are a number of forwards whose contracts will be up, or they can sign extensions. That amount was less than Pasternak, and I think that. For someone like William Nylander, this contract is bad news because Ehlers, I think, is at least an equal and maybe better in terms of an all-around game. And the thing is, you've got Lou Lamoriello in Toronto, and he has, for almost every contract he's negotiated there, except for Patrick Marleau, where they had to throw money, he's gotten sweetheart hometown discount deals. And I think that means. If they may announce a Nylander contract in the next couple of days, it's possible. But I think that Nylander, unless he blows up this year and scores 40, 45 goals, is going to get around $6 million.
12-2.
Yeah. No, I lost you guys. Sorry. Yeah, no, he could. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you really are going to see a situation where I think Nylander is going to get more than Pasternak or Ehlers. I think. Yeah,
well, then it's going to be trouble for Toronto because they can't afford to pay Marner 8, Nylander 7, and Matthews 13. One of them will have to go if they're asking for that kind of money.
Possible they can do that. I mean, the cap is going to be going up a lot, so it's hard to say. I think the cap will be going up a bit at least, and enough that they can justify that. And they're going to find a way. I mean, they're going to find.
But here's the thing. I think at the end of the day, the Leafs always can say, "Hey, you're playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the greatest organization on earth, and you're not playing for the Winnipeg Jets." And I think that's always going to be their argument now.
Yeah, the argument's going to be, let's keep the band together, take a little less, so we'll give you what you're worth, but take a little bit of a haircut. And most of these players will do that. Guys like Connor Brown did it, guys like Zaitsev did it, Riley, Kadri, Frederick Anderson, they've all taken a little less, and that may go to paying Matthews, but it also may go across the board.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's move on to the division picking the East because we do have to get out of here at 2:00 today precisely due to children's that has to be picked up.
Snappy.
So we're gonna go 15 minutes on each here. So we got the Atlantic Division. We're gonna start there.
Easy. Detroit 8th.
You guys are both saying Detroit 8th. I have Florida at 8th.
Hold on, we do have breaking news. I'm going to give Thomas Boyle credit here on the YouTube chat. I haven't double checked this, so if it's wrong, I'm going to kick him in the nuts. But they say that Brandon Peary was signed by Vegas.
Yes, and he was placed on waivers today.
Okay.
And there was a minor trade between Buffalo and Montreal. Zach Redmond for Nicolas Delorier.
Okay, another Delorier moving around. All right, so you guys both have Detroit, and I think we know what I'm going with Florida here. Okay, and the thing is, we all sit there and we talk about Florida last year, and they did collapse. I mean, it was a total collapse in every which way. They were a bad hockey team, and they had injuries, and they had players who were missing for sure. I don't see where they did enough to make them that much better. And I know that, Huberdeau should be better because he's back, and they have a couple, Barkov's obviously a great player. They've got a couple great players for sure. But after that, I mean, Dadonov, they go out and they get these guys. I don't really think that this is, and at the end of the, and then we sit back and you can't help but say the fact it's obvious that they have Luongo and Reimer, are combined 68 years old. This is an old goaltending duo, neither of whom I love at this point in their career. I don't see this. I think this team is going to be in trouble. And I like some of the younger players, Connor Brickley. I like.
I think they're going to be in trouble, but Detroit is a tire fire. That's the problem.
Another thing, though, too. Let's see what happens. I mean, Owen Tippett has been named to the opening night roster. I don't know if he'll last, but he does have an amazing shot. If he were to score a fair amount of goals early, that would change the dynamic of that team, Eck. So that's the one.
True, and that is possible, and all of that is possible. I think that I'm not saying they needed Yager, but Yager was one of their better players, and in a bad year.
They had to move on from Yager. They really did.
I know they had to move on from Yager, but what did they do to replace him? I mean, they went hard after Radulov, and they didn't get him. They knew they had to do that, and I think there's a reason they knew they had to do that. They don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of power. They have a great obviously Ekblad is one of the best in the league, but after Ekblad, it really falls quickly.
I'm more concerned about Ekblad coming back from multiple concussions and Roberto Luongo's hip than their offense. I think Barkov, I think Huberdeau can step it up. They have Trocheck. They're one of the stronger
player, but
they're one of the stronger teams up the middle, with Bukestad.
They are. No, they are, but they are very. But the wingers those guys have are nothing special. Like,
but here's the thing, Eck. If you look at Detroit's roster as an example, Nick Jensen has made the team. He couldn't even crack the Rangers lineup last year.
David Booth made the team. He was playing for the Vladivostok Admiral last year.
The lineup's not good.
No, he's staying. He's staying.
Stay there, okay.
Yeah, David Booth is on the list. He has made it. If you look at their opening night, and Martin Ferk has made it, and he was a pick that a couple of years ago I would have told you this guy's got a tremendous amount of offensive talent. Now we're not sure.
Yeah. So
but Anthony Mantha is a good young player. He's coming along really strong, right?
Oh, this is a different Nick Jensen. Sorry, this is a different Nick Jensen.
That's the defenseman, Nick Jensen.
Dylan Larkin can only be better than he was last year. All right. So Dylan Larkin had an off year. He's going to get better. I'll take Mrazek and Howard over Luongo and Reimer.
You won't.
No.
No, I'm not saying they're great.
I'll take Roberto Luongo with an arthritic hip over those guys. Okay.
To me, this is not a slam dunk. Okay, everybody wants to put Detroit in last place, and I think this is psychological. I think because of all these years we had Detroit, we kept saying Detroit's not going to make the playoffs, and they made the playoffs. Detroit's not going to make the playoffs, they made the playoffs, and then finally they didn't make the playoffs, and now everyone's willing to just throw them to the bottom of the league. And I don't think they're there. They didn't miss it. They weren't the worst team in this division last year.
I know, but it's not psychological.
You feel better if they'll be fighting with Florida for last place. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a battle. I don't think they're going to run away with it, but I think that.
Let's move on.
You agree that Florida's 7th? Then is that where you put Florida?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. Let's move on. That's good. A lot of people are putting Florida a lot higher than that. They think Florida's going to have this miraculous recovery. I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, I wouldn't mind to see it. I like the people in Florida. I love a lot of people in the organization. They're a great organization to me, but I just don't see it.
Okay.
Number 6 for me, the Boston Bruins. Okay. I know this is again not a popular thing, but again, the Bruins have that thing that we've talked about before that I hate on teams, and I always predict these teams to do poorly, and they always do poorly. Teams that have generational gaps, a big generational gap. Like this team has players they have like most of the players are either 30 or over or 22 and under. There's hardly anyone in the middle there. So you're saying you agree with me on this? Then I'm not being crazy.
No, you are. I posted, some people know, in our chat room. I said it's not that it's an unpopular pick; it's just wrong.
Oh, okay. Thanks, chat room. I appreciate it.
My 6th place pick is the Ottawa Senators. I think the Ottawa Senators, everything went right for them last year. Even and not. Don't take this wrong, but the fact that they rallied emotionally behind Craig Anderson in a tragic situation, they bonded together. But I think the loss of Mathot hurts them. They sent Shabbat down to the minors, so they're Erik Karlsson is he may be back after a week or two, a lot sooner than people think. But is he 100%? I'm still skeptical of their offense is good at times, but can disappear. And Guy Boucher has that habit of wearing thin very quickly on a team. So I think everything went right last year, and they came within 1 goal of the Stanley Cup final. I don't think they're making the playoffs this year.
I'm putting the Sabres 6th. I look at their team, and that 4th line I'm not in love with. The 3rd line's okay. Like the 3rd line's okay. The top 2 are good. And I'm letting them include Pominville in this top line. If they really do that, I think it's crazy, but whatever.
Yeah.
They love Jason Pominville there, so they're going to give it a go. I look at the goaltending and I say, still kind of rough.
Yeah.
It's got to prove itself. I still think Leonard's got something to prove, but I do think there's something there. The pairings now are better. The top 2 pairings, I think, have gotten a lot better. I think even that second pairing of Boulot and Bellio and Jake McCabe is pretty good. Josh Georges and Antipin, that could be either great or it'll be a disaster. Like I don't know how that's going to be, and they don't really have any depth defensively. When Justin Falk, and that's the wrong spelling of Falk, is your next defenseman up potentially.
And Matt Tennyson, yeah. It's not,
because they're going to give Brendan Gooley more time, and I think that's fair. They should. To me, that's not great. They picked up Scandella. Scandella's good. At the end of the day, I think this team comes in 6th. I still don't think they're there.
Okay, so we have 3 different 6th place teams. It's interesting.
Okay.
I'll continue on with you from 5th place to say that that's where I have Ottawa. Which is
who did you had 6th? You had Buffalo 6th?
No, I had Boston 6th. Okay.
Oh, Boston 6th. Okay.
You had Ottawa, and Russ had Buffalo. So I'm going to go off of what Mike said with Ottawa. I think they're 5th too. I mean, everything did go right for them last year in a lot of ways. They could be better than this, but the loss of Karlsson is big, and if he doesn't come back right away, they were relying a lot on Craig Anderson. They gave him a lot of money. He had a great year, like you said, Mike. But it's like, can he do that again?
Yeah.
They're relying a lot on Chris Weidman, who they actually left exposed in the expansion draft. There's certain signs you look for. They're like kind of strange. Like they were hoping not to lose Weidman. They were hoping not to lose Weidman. They lost Mathot, but they did leave Weidman exposed, and suddenly he's in their top pairing or something. I've heard, in the preseason. I mean,
you can thank
Karlsson hurt, but still, that's relying a lot on the guy that you were willing to let go to Las Vegas. That's tricky.
You can thank Dion Phaneuf for having to expose either one of them, but there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Logan Brown is a great player. He's going to be really good for them eventually. Whether or not he's there yet or not is a big question, but I like Logan
Brown. 5th overall, 5th in the division, I have Buffalo. I think they'll be better than Ottawa. I think they have an outside chance of being the wild card. Everything has to go right. I have confidence that Phil Housley is going to get more out of the team than Dan Bilesma did. I still have questions about their defense. Leonard is an uncertain factor, but I think that they will score. injuries have always been a problem. Opozo got hurt last year. Kane for a while got hurt. What might affect them, it will be, midway through the season, depending on where they are, they may start shopping Kane because I don't think they're going to re-sign him. So, but I think there's a possibility of them making the playoffs there. So I went fifth.
Yeah. I'm going to go with fifth. I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens.
Wow, it's pretty good.
I look at the pairings and Mark Streit is now an everyday defenseman for them. He wasn't even an everyday defenseman for a mediocre Flyers team. Like he really
hasn't been though. Like in the I think that they have him on there in the depth charts, but I don't see him being there.
Yeah, hopefully he's not. But either way, they're thin on D. Like there's just no way around it. They're back to being thin on defense again. Maybe when Juleson gets healthier, they'll throw him in there. But even then, he's young. I'm happy that Charles Hudon made the team. Maybe he can add some goal scoring. Delarose maybe makes the team now. I think he made the team.
He might have. Well, they sent Peter Holland in the minors, so Delarose is the fourth line center. Yeah.
Right now he's on the team, but again, scoring's going to be spotty for them, and Drouin is going to have to prove himself as a top line center. Like if they threw him in there as a second line center, I would feel better about things. But they're throwing him in there as possibly the top line center. And that Julian's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on him as well as the rest of the Canadiens fans. So I'm going Canadiens fifth.
I'm good. So we have three different fifth place teams too. Mike, I'm going to guess you should go next year, fourth.
Fourth, I have the Canadiens. It's all going to be on Carey Price's back. I think they're a borderline wild card team. I don't think they'll finish. Obviously, if I'm predicting them fourth, I don't think they're going to finish in the top three. The goal scoring is a problem. The speed.
Sure about that, Mike?
I don't know. I mean,
the goal scoring is a problem. I'm skeptical about Drouin. Apparently, he's played really well in the preseason, well. up the middle. But the preseason and the regular season are two completely different things. And he's not matching up against number one centers. When he matches up against bigger bodied number one centers, we'll see how he does. I mean, he's quick and he's got a lot of skill, so that may counterbalance it. But
I have a feeling because he's not great defensively. I have a feeling he's not going to be matched up for his trying to stop him, but rather try to take advantage of him.
Right.
So I think he might end up being able to score some points still, whether or not that helps the team. But I think that I think that's going to be.
But in the end, it's going to be, can Carey Price carry them? And we've seen him do it before that, he can. I think this team has a lot of flaws, but he may be good enough and he may play enough games that he can carry them to a wild card spot. But I don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they're going to come close to winning the division.
Okay. I'm going to say my number 4, which is the Buffalo Sabres. So a lot of the stuff that you said, Russ, I do agree with. I put the Sabres were the hardest team for me to pick in this division, similar to like Carolina in the next division. And that's because sometimes these young teams that are coming on strong, you just don't know whether they're still a year or two away or not. Like that's the question always remains. Like with Edmonton, it was like, oh, they're going to be good. No, there's still another year. And then they finally, they get there. I have to see a team sort of get there first, and Buffalo hasn't really gotten there. Like they haven't gotten to the point where they're battling for a playoff spot yet. This year they will. I think this is when they will battle for a playoff spot. They'll be in fourth. I do think only 3 teams are coming out of this division. So, but I think that they will finish in fourth. My weird thing, my crazy prediction about this is that if they were to finish in the top 3, that Jack Eichel would get some serious MVP consideration, which would be interesting to see because he is that good and could make that. And what if Evander Kane, who I agree with you, Mike, could be traded? What if Evander Kane and Eichel for some reason find some chemistry? They're
not re-signing him.
They're not re-signing him, though. They may keep him as an own rental and not trade him, but they will not re-sign him. So, if they're in the playoff race and they think they can't make it without trading by trading Kane, they'll keep him, but they will not re-sign him. I seriously.
Eichel will find chemistry with a lot of players in his career.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with that. But Evander Kane is a. I think you're right, Mike, in that they probably won't trade him regardless if he has a good year or a bad year. They'll probably keep him. They won't be able to trade him if he has a bad year. If he has a good year, you might as well keep him as an own rental. I think you're right because I think the value of what you get back for him isn't going to be. It depends where you are, of course, but if they're
right, and that's the 8th place. And that's the thing. If they're out of the playoff race, if they're 8 or 10 points out of a playoff spot, then he's on the market.
But I don't think any of us think he will be. So, So Russ, who do you have it for?
I'm going to have the Ottawa Senators. I think they'll get Karlsson back. I bet you like 3 games into it, and I'll take an 80% Erik Karlsson over most of the guys in this league. So I'm not worried about that.
Wouldn't you be not surprised suddenly if he plays in this game in Sweden?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean he might, but if he doesn't, whatever.
That's why that game's a sellout. Right? That's why that game's a sellout in Sweden. So it's like, of course he's going to play.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's the hope. But at any rate, they're also giving Alex Fermenton a look-see here. And it's interesting because he got drafted 47th overall. Now, this was a kid last year, preseason, was picked to be a guaranteed first-rounder. He fell out of it when he didn't have the greatest of years for London. But the thing about it is the kid can really skate. He's 6'2", and he's gotten stronger over the summer. So this is a good plug-in for Ottawa to see if he could sort of get in the flow with some of their other talented young guys. Brassard's on the opening night roster. I don't know. Is he playing? I mean, I
don't think he played in any of the preseason games.
Right, so he's probably not playing until a few games into it, but they just don't want to put him on IR. But they'll get him back too. I just look at it and I say, yeah, Anderson I still think is a good goalie, and he is the right goalie right now for that team. It just seems to work. So I'm going to go with Ottawa here in this spot.
Okay. Number 3 for me, this is where I put Montreal. I battled a lot over putting them at 2, but I have this line in here that anyone who thinks so I went through the changes with Montreal, and I think that I actually like quite a few of them. First of all, I like Claude Julien. I really like Claude Julien, and I think having him from the beginning of the year on.
How much do you like him?
I like him in terms of the fact that I think
he's on his Christmas list.
No, he's definitely not. I mean, I've had my run-ins with Claude Julien, but I think that he's actually a better coach, a way better coach, obviously, than the guy they had before. But I also believe deeply that that Montreal won't be as good during the regular season, almost a little bit by design, because the way Julian's going to work this team is he's going to do what he did with Boston, where Boston, would never. Sometimes Boston would have a great year and but they would usually not win the division. They would be the team that, that kind of worked on things and kind of tried to peak at the playoffs, which Montreal, I think, is what they're going to try to do. They were first in the division last year. How much worse are they, from losing the players they lost? I mean, really, I do agree. Obviously, they lost some scoring up top with Radulov, no questions asked, right? That's an issue. Drouin, though, can he score as much as Radulov did last year? Probably. I mean, I think that's probably about what you expect from him. So you're not going to lose that much scoring at the end of the day.
Well, I don't know about that. Okay.
What were Radulov's numbers? I mean, I think Drouin,
Radulov, had 65 points.
I think Jonathan 65. Don't you think? I think you've often said that you think Jonathan Drouin's a 60 or 70 point player in this league.
Yeah, at some point, but I mean.
Right. This is the point, man. He's playing on the first line.
Yeah, but
that's already on his wing, which is a really great player for him to play with.
But the problem is that his number 2 center is Thomas Plekanec, and the number 3 center is Deneau. They have nobody. Everybody is going to put their best checker on Jonathan Drouin.
I don't think so, because like I said before, like I just said, I think they're going to try to take advantage of him, which is what I would do, because he's not good defensively. I think
Radulov had 54 points, 18 goals.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's well within Drouin. All right, I'll bet you right now.
As a center, it makes it a little tougher. It's not impossible.
I'll say Drouin. If you want to place a bet, Russ, I'll do Drouin. Drouin beats Radulov's numbers last year.
Okay.
Remember that one.
$10
for a bottle. Take a boost.
Okay.
All right, so I know we got to move, but I wanted to throw this up because I think this is the other thing. Shea Weber, we seem to be forgetting about the fact this team has Shea Weber on it. This is not. He was amazing last year. He will be amazing again this year. I really like Victor Mete. I honestly think that that's the kind of thing that never would have happened, with Michel Therrien, but happens with Julien because he sees a player.
I'm not.
Want to see the Metro? We got to keep it going.
I'm not forgetting.
I gotta make my case for the Canadians because you guys.
I'm not forgetting that they have Shea Weber. The problem is they don't have anybody else other than Shea Weber. I mean, I like Petrie, okay. Alzner is a good defensive.
There's a good pickup. He's a good pickup.
He's a good defense, but it's all on Carey Price.
A lot of teams wanting Carl Alzner.
They're going to win a ton of 2-1 games.
Move on.
Montreal. Who else do you have in number 3? Russ and Mike.
I'm going to go Boston Bruins. Jake DeBrusk did make the team. I thought he might. Yeah. Anders Bork made the team. I thought he would. McAvoy obviously was going to be there. So, they're okay. Spooner's still there for all the talk. So, I think by sheer inertia, they're going to just be there because they just have enough defense. And now with the addition of McAvoy to keep them in that spot, I don't know how dangerous of a team they're going to be. Yeah. But if Rask is Rask, they'll be pretty good.
They're forward. My son agreed. I said because of Russ and Mike, I'm not going to be able to pick you up till 2:15, so we can go till 2:10. Guys.
Okay. The Bruins forwards are better than the Canadians. Their defense is maybe their defense is on par because I think they're deep. I think they're deeper. I think McAvoy is a Calder Trophy candidate, and Tuukka Rask is one of the top 6 or 7 goalies in the league. So I think that's Boston is my third pick. Third place.
Okay, second.
Let me go first.
Go ahead, Mike.
The Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that their defense is still going to be a bit of a problem. Ron Hainsey on the top pairing is not good, but the addition of Marleau, they're very, very deep at forward. The only concern is the sophomore slump with all these rookies, but I think they're all level-headed, and Babcock has already stepped up the button pressing and motivational stuff that he did in Detroit for years. I think that's going to work. Freddie Anderson, knock on wood for Leaf fans for him to stay healthy, because with any team, if you lose your number one, you're in trouble. But I think they added experience, and they have a great offense. The defense is going to be a little bit of a problem, but I think that they'll overcome those on some nights where they're just going to score more goals than the other team. So I have them as second place.
There you go. Russ?
Yeah, I had the Leafs here too, partly because of Freddie Anderson. He was really great last year, but I would not have him play 66 games this year. I think if they push him to that many games this year, then you are risking injury with him because he does have that issue. I think right now we look at their top couple lines, and they're excellent. Like, they really are. They're among the best in the league, especially if nobody's going to have a sophomore slump. But of course, we know somebody will. Right. Maybe even 2 players will. And some people say, well, it's not a sophomore slump. Whatever you want to call it, it happens. But again, I look at their team, and it's really talented. I'm happy for a guy like Josh Levo. But I will say this. Curtis McElhinney is going to be this guy now that has to play spectacular backup goaltending, or otherwise Babcock will just pick on him. Like, it's just going to be a natural selection here because he just pick on the backups.
Babcock loved him last year, Russ, and he said, the thing I love about Curtis McElhinney is he's 6'3" all the time. When they did the measurements this training camp, he shrunk to 6'2", so he's not 6'3" all the time.
That's the hilarious thing I've ever heard. I mean, that's just awesome. Babcock must have loved that.
That's great. So I think the Leafs shake up well here. I don't think they'll make it to the Stanley Cup like some are hoping, but this is going to be a good year for them.
Yes.
All right, my number 2 team is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Oh God. Okay.
And no. I'm sorry. We talked yesterday about the 2 teams that everyone has up there, Tampa and Dallas, right? And everyone says these are the teams that are going to come back from the dead last year. Dallas did a lot to fix what they needed to fix.
Yes.
Tampa is getting Stamkos back, and they got Bishop. I mean, no, sorry, they lost.
They got rid of Bishop. Yeah.
They lost Bishop. They get Stamkos back, and then what else did they do? They added Kunitz. Okay, he's a 4th liner. That's fine.
Probably third liner. They're getting Callahan back, and they.
Oh yeah, but getting Callahan back is like saying that meat looks good to me. Like I don't like it. Like in your refrigerator, that bologna that's been in there too long. No, it's all right. I mean, Callahan is really an expiration date player.
And I'm in the minority that thinks that the addition of Dan Girardi as a depth defenseman is a good thing. He's on their top line. He's their top pairing defenseman.
Well, but he's there to block shots. If he's literally there to block shots, he'll be okay. Right. If they play him 20 minutes a game, they're crazy.
No,
he's going to be on there. He's going to play a lot for them too, right? Okay.
But they're not separating Strawman and Hedman. Strawman and Hedman's their top pairing. If they're playing Girardi with Sergachev,
preseason they did, but whether they keep that or not, we'll see. It's time. Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of research on that because I was surprised to see that because I saw the thing and I'm like, so I called some people there and they said, yeah, the goal was to keep them apart. The goal was they needed to spread them out because last year they felt like they had one pair and then they fell off drastically. Their third pairing is really not good. And their second pairing and first pairing are okay. All they did was add Stamkos, which is great, but Stamkos' numbers have also gone down every year for a while now, and he's a great player. So why is this team suddenly better than everybody else when they didn't even make the playoffs last year?
Because they were within 1 point of the playoffs last year. They dumped 3-4 players at the deadline and had Stamkos. They didn't have Stamkos at all, and they only came within 1 point.
They dumped those players, if you remember.
Right. And
I mean,
guys
like they dumping those players. They played. I mean, they were bad before that. They were completely. I mean, to me, it's just this is not a slam dunk.
No, it's not a slam dunk. But guys like Braden Point stepped up and played wonderfully. He's your third line center behind Stamkos and Tyler Johnson.
They have Chris Kunitz.
Tyler Johnson has not been good for 3 years.
Yeah, Chris Kunitz is a pretty good ad, though. I mean, that's.
But he's old. I mean, he's a good player in the playoffs for you. He had a terrible year last year for Pittsburgh.
Right, but they're not using him as a top 6 forward. He's a terrible
year. At his best, he was with Crosby. I mean, that Crosby kept Kunitz going a lot longer than he should have. I mean, they did not do any. And their coach has issues with a lot of the players in this team. I mean, Kucherov is an amazing player. Right. He could, my crazy prediction is he could win the scoring title. He could win the scoring title. But it's not even that crazy.
I love the addition of Sagacha, though. I think here's the thing. End of the day, I think Tampa's going to win it, right? But if they don't, and they do have problems or don't make the playoffs or are a first-round exit, then maybe John Cooper does have a problem with his job. But
I think John Cooper does. I think he's under a serious microscope. I love him. I want him.
I will say this.
Philadelphia picks him up. But I'm going with Toronto in first. For all the reasons you guys said, except I think they're going to finish first. So
that's fine. And I think Tampa's going to finish first. But the last thing I wanted to say about Tampa was I think JT Brown's pretty brave. He is receiving all kinds of racist threats.
I know.
And he's
horrible.
Playing,
it's absolutely horrible.
And he's playing beyond that. And I think I don't even know how I would react if that was happening to me.
So pissed off about that. Just so pissed off. All right.
Let's give the guy a lot of credit. He is not letting it affect him, and that's hard to do.
Metro, number 8 for me, the New Jersey Devils. Another case of a team that's getting a lot better. I will watch them. The funny thing is I will watch the Devils more now than I did when they were winning Stanley Cups because they're a fun team to watch. But I do not think that I think that they are still a couple years away. They will be a lot better. They are on the right road. Drew Stafford was a great pickup for them, and we'll get them at least a second-round draft pick at the trade deadline. But he is not going to – and Pavel Zacha, he's phenomenal, an exciting player to watch. But this team is not, in my opinion, this is in this division, they're the worst team.
I have the New York Islanders as the 8th place team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like their goaltending. I think the trade of Hamonic weakens their defense. Their defense is still good, but it weakens it. And I think that the situation with Tavares, if it continues in the same vein through the season, will be a distraction to the point that I think it will get in their heads. So okay. I'm not there's a lot of young talent on this team, and maybe that talent can carry them out of last place. But if Tavares doesn't get signed and this just keeps going on, I think it's going to be a big distraction all year.
I agree. I have the Islanders last two. I think the problem is when you're expecting, Barzal, Beauvillier, and I'm leaving out another youngster.
Hosang. Yeah.
Those guys are all going to have to produce out of their top 9 for them to be successful. That's going to be hard to do. And then we're just guaranteeing Andrew Ladd's going to pick up where he left off, but what if he doesn't? That between the goaltending and then the defense, they added Pulak, which I think is smart. And if they use him on the second power play, it's a 100-mile-an-hour shot they added. But I don't know. I don't love their defense. I don't love their goaltending. I think they're going to come in last. And I think it's a distraction with Tavares.
Okay. Number 7. Good, Rush, you can start.
Number 7. Boy, this is a tough one. But I'm going to go New Jersey Devils. I do like the addition of Will Butcher. I do think Zacha is a great player, and I do think their top 6 is better. Their defensive pairings have gotten a lot better. Like, they actually have 7 halfway decent to really good defensemen now, ranging in that range, where last year they didn't really have that. All that said, they're still going to struggle for offense. I think they'll be able to keep games close with Schneider, but I think they're coming in 7th.
Yeah, I have him 7th too. I think Heischier is going to have a big year as a rookie. Young guys like Zaka and Taylor Hall could have a big year offensively, but there's not enough offense there. Their defense is a little better, and Schneider's a good goaltender. But I think they're a year or two away. But I like some of the moves that they're making. But 7th for me.
Okay, 7th, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. Another team that really could surprise everybody. Their biggest addition in my mind was may have been Darling. They seem to get half of the 3rd and 4th liners from the Chicago Blackhawks, but they they added a lot of players from the Blackhawks, like Kruger, and of course Tervainen, who's a great player. But I think Darling's a good goalie. But this team's problem last year was not their goaltending. Cam Ward was actually really good for them last year. They're getting up there a lot like Buffalo. Like, to me, they might just be 1 or 2 more years before they're a serious playoff team. They might be 1 year behind Buffalo. Maybe that's sort of where I have it. Who do you have at 7? Russ, you can start.
The 7th, he had New Jersey.
I got New Jersey, right? Go here, Mike. You go.
For 6th, I have the Flyers.
6th of the Flyers.
I like the young defense that they have. Provorov and Gostisbehere, obviously, and Sanheim. It's going to be interesting to see. How well Nolan Patrick does, and there is a core group there. I just can't get over the goaltending. I think the goaltending is their Achilles heel. Brian Elliott to me has never been a consistent goaltender. Neuwirth has his moments, but it's a 1A, 1B situation like it's been the last few years there. And you don't have Mason there to take that run of 15 to 20 games that he normally has, where they win a bunch of games in a row. I think there are holes in this team and holes in their lineup that will be filled eventually. They have a lot of young players, but I don't think it's if you're relying on Filppula and Laterra to be like centerpieces of this team, I don't think that's a recipe for success. So I think they're going to finish 6th.
Okay, Russ?
All right, so what are we up to, 6th or 7th?
6th.
6th, I'm going to go with the Flyers as well. I did have to clean up my dog's vomit, so that's what took me. You probably didn't like our picks.
Good multitasking. Go ahead.
I wanted to add that. The thing about the Flyers is I'm being told that Brian Elliott is going to start tonight, which, that again surprises me. Where last year Hackstall surprised us all starting Neuwirth, now he's surprising us all starting Elliott, if that's what happens.
Yeah.
So there's that. I do like Nolan Patrick being on that second line. I don't know if the experiment will last on the first line with Giroux in the left wing and Couturier's number 1 center and Voracek, but we'll see. I mean, Couturier sometimes does mesh well with other players, and it could be like a Derek Stepan situation where you keep him there because everything clicks. Now, in 2 weeks, if everything switches back and all of a sudden everybody gets moved down on the depth chart because Giroux's back in center and Patrick's the third line center, wouldn't shock me. Like I could see that all getting jostled, but they're going to give it a go probably for 5 games or 10 games. And Travis Sanheim looks like right now he's on the roster. Looks like Sam Morin's going to sit the bench to start. So the Islanders, the Flyers will have a lot more puck moving and better shots out there. All that said, I don't love Elliott as a goalie, and if he's going to play the bulk of the games, that's why I have him here.
Yeah, if he's the bulk of the games, I would have the Flyers here too, but I don't have the Flyers here. I have number 6. I have the New York Rangers. Okay, so
I'm sorry.
What? Why?
No, I just had. I'm going to throw up now. You got
like I said in my blog.
But go ahead, state your case.
Fans can rejoice because the last time I picked the Rangers to not make the playoffs, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Kings. All right, the Rangers always do well when I pick them to be terrible. But I don't see the Rangers. See, to me, the Rangers are, Lundqvist is obviously a great goalie. Defensively, they've got a solid defense for the most part. But I don't see this great scoring coming from their forwards. I see what they do when the Rangers are at their best. And correct me if I'm wrong, they're getting scoring from all over the place, and they have a tendency to go hot and cold as a team. They can score in bunches. They can score like 6 goals in one game, 7 goals the next game, and then they can go like 1, 2 goal, 3 goal, that kind of thing. And that's a recipe for disaster at times. And this division is tight, like 6, 5, 4. Those teams are all pretty much in the same boat to me. I think there's a 1, 2, 3 separation, a 4, 5, 6, and then a 7, 8 separation in this division. So I think the Rangers at the end of the day are, I think Rick Nash is, this maybe he has a great year because he goes on again, off again, on again, off again. But I don't think the Rangers are making the playoffs. I think they're gonna struggle, and I think they're gonna struggle to score goals, and I think they're gonna need to. I mean, I go back to last year's playoffs when they should have gone to the conference finals in my mind, and they struggled against Montreal. They got through it, of course, but then they struggled against Ottawa, and those are two teams that everybody thought. We were sitting there saying, no, the Rangers are going to go to the conference finals. They're going to run right through those two teams.
They would have if they hadn't choked against Ottawa. That's
what I'm saying. I mean, they choked because they have to score, but they have to score as a group. There's certain things they have to do together, and when they don't do that, they can lose to anybody.
But one of the reasons they choked is because their defense was flawed, because they were playing Girardi too many minutes, and they were playing.
But Shattenkirk doesn't make your defense better. He makes your power play better, but he doesn't make your defense better.
Well, I think
Girardi makes your defense a little bit worse. If you have an older goalie like Luongo, you won shot blockers. The bottom line is you won shot blockers.
I think he makes their defense better because he's going to have the puck on his stick, skating it up the zone, and it's not going to be Dan Girardi, basically sitting back trying to block everything. And the less that Nick Holden has an effect on your offense and on your blue line, the better. Jay
Hernay's a big player for them right now.
He's a fourth line center.
Maybe, but right now he's one of their top scorers in preseason. I know it's preseason, but
when Jesper Fast
and he looked good in Montreal. He looked good for the Rangers last year.
Playing for a job.
Hold on. All right, let's move on.
Moving on. Number 5, I have the Flyers. All right, so that's where I put the Flyers.
Okay.
And I do think, actually, I'll go on a limb and say that I think that if they had a different coach, I might have put him at 4 or 3. I think that this team's talent is way better than you're saying, Mike. You're forgetting a lot of players. Like you're forgetting Wayne Simmons, for example. I was trying to hurry up.
I
know, but when you sit there and you say the difference between, like I said in this, the difference between the Flyers and the Hurricanes, for example, is the Hurricanes don't have a Giroux, Voracek, or a Simmons on them. They don't have players that have experience, that have been goal scorers, that have been stars on their team. They don't have that. They have the same kind of younger players the Flyers have. The Flyers probably have better younger players on forward. They have better younger players on defense.
Which is
I know we're running out of time. We're going to go to 2.
Which is why I advocated to Carolina trading one of their many defensemen for forwards. I do think that Stahl, Skinner, Justin Williams, Rask, Teravainen, there is some talent there. I have Carolina 5th.
Me too.
Yeah.
There you
go. Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go to 4th.
Fourth, I have the Rangers. I think the loss of Stepan hurts them, but I think there's enough offense to cover that. I also think that Shattenkirk extremely upgrades their blue line, and unless William Nylander taking out Henrik Lundqvist's knee has a detrimental effect on him this year, Lundqvist will be Lundqvist. So I think they're in the playoff mix. They're a wild card, or in the mix for 3rd place possibly.
I've got Columbus at 4th. I love the fact that Milano's on the team and Dubois is on the team, but they still are going to be young guys that are going to have to find their way. Bob is Bob. If he's healthy, it's great. If not, they're not. So this could be an amazing year, or 4th could still be a playoff year for them, and I'm going to put them 4th.
Yeah, I'm so sorry we're rushing through this, guys. 4th is where I have the Capitals. I agree with some of the stuff you guys were saying about the Capitals yesterday. I was kind of playing along just for the devil's advocate. I do agree the Capitals have lost some spunk, and although I do think that they also maybe a little bit of a attitude about the regular season in Washington now, having gone through these, and they really wouldn't mind finishing away from the Pittsburgh Penguins. So why not finish 4th? If you're going to finish 4th, you're going to take on whoever's maybe Tampa or Toronto. I don't know, it's possible. So 3rd. Go ahead. 3rd,
I'll go real quick. I'll say, look, I think this is where the Rangers are. Shattenkirk definitely helps them. He helps them in 3-on-3. They will get a ton of points in 3-on-3. He helps McDonough get out of the role that now Shattenkirk will provide. That makes McDonough better. Heedle's on the team. He's a 6'2" kid. That could add the power and some scoring that they're looking for. So I think, Eck, you didn't give enough credit there, and I think 3rd is where they'll come in.
Yeah, possible.
3rd, I have Washington. They're severely weakened from last year, but you still have Holtby. You still have Kuznetsov and Backstrom. Their defense is still pretty decent. They're weaker, but they're still a playoff team.
Yeah. 3rd is where I have the Islanders. And this is where, I really, you guys have the Islanders at the bottom. I think you guys are missing the boat on the Islanders completely. And that's all I'll say. I think that watching them play, they played the Flyers like 6 times in the preseason, I think, and it was just kind of crazy. But beyond that, even last year, towards the end, there's parts that you can see that where they're coming together. Anders Lee, like I said, people just forget about this guy as one of the top 20
Either miss the boat or the boat will be drifting in Long Island Sound.
And I think sometimes distractions make teams better. And
is it the Downeaster Alexa?
I think this is one of those. I think this is one of those instances, and I actually like the fact that Halak is up, and I think the fact that they have these 2 goalies. I think the Islanders are just. I love a lot of their players. I like Hussein. I like a lot of their players. I really do. They are much better than people are giving them credit for. So I'll say that. Second, I have Columbus. This is where I put Columbus. So and for all the reasons you guys said, really, that's the Columbus is what they is. They are a good team. If they had a different coach, and the only thing I worry about with Columbus is when Will Torts wear this team. And I wonder about if it's this year or next year. I think he'll get one more good year out of Torts, and then we'll see.
Yeah, second, I've got the Caps. I mean, at the end of the day, they may be a little worse. They're still a great team. They have Holtby. Verona will help. I think Ovechkin will be back to scoring 50 goals. So I think the Capitals will come in second.
That would be something.
I have Columbus second. Bobrovsky, you probably have another big year. The concern with him is injury. I think they have one of the best defenses in the league. Dubois coming in, Panarin coming in, I think will improve their offense. Just concerned whether, there's going to be a drop-off with Cam Atkinson after scoring over 30 goals. I'm not sure if he's that good of a scorer, but he just had a great year last year. But I think that they could challenge for first place. Obviously, everybody's taking Pittsburgh for first place. The Stanley Cup hangover I think is a real thing after 2 lengthy playoff runs. And they don't. Right now, I think their number 3 center is Greg McKegg. That doesn't hack it. I mean, so it's going to be all on Crosby and all on Malkin to carry the offense up the middle, and Matt Murray's going to need to stay healthy because they don't have Marc-Andre Fleury backing him up. So I'll go 1 Pittsburgh, 2 Columbus.
Yep, I think Pittsburgh's number 1 and I think they're the kind of champion that I like to have. Until someone takes the championship from them, they are the champions of this league. I mean, they've won these 2 Stanley Cup playoffs pretty dominatingly, like pretty much. I mean, there really weren't that many moments when the Penguins were in trouble. Like I felt for 2 years, and that's even different than say Chicago or LA. I really felt like they've been more dominant. And
they know the grind. They know what they have to go through. They have players that could give even more, like Rust. Yeah. And Gensel and Josh Archibald is still on the roster. I know people were wondering.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I know. I mean, Gensel is a big X factor. It gives Crosby actually maybe.
And I'm being facetious about Josh Archibald, but I still think they'll be first.
Gensel might be Crosby's best winger he's ever had.
He could be.
That's something that's going to be fun to watch. They may have taken this long to find him, but they found the guy who really. I mean, he and Crosby. Gensel was the reason that the Penguins won the Stanley Cup last year. I mean, don't make it. He's outscored scored huge goals at huge times, all over the place, and especially against the Predators. I mean, he was just amazing. So so there we have it, guys. That was fast and everything. But remember, this is your last chance to get in on the Hockey Buzz Super League in the next couple hours. Please do sign up. It's a lot of fun, and I promise you'll enjoy it. You might be playing me because I just put my team together. So I'm going to be popping my team up on Instagram later, so we'll all be able to see. We're going to go through it and enjoy the games tonight. I will be back with I'm going to write a blog on the top 4 teams in the Atlantic, and then I'll still write the Central. So I got a lot of work ahead of me still, but we're getting there. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow about the games tonight. See ya.